Cause I can read between the lines, I ain't blind. We unwind what they're really saying, genetically modify what you're tasting. Loan you that cottage promise, so now you live up in your mom's basement. Redesign time so your mind is always wasted. Program to crave the basics, keep the beta in stasis. Pay the state, kid, you're in debt for being born. Messengers are more than just the price for being warned. Don't be alarmed, disconnect from their machinations. Stop subscribing to the folly of own nations. Bone breaking ain't the answer, cause they seek the ownership of souls. Spread the seeds and watch them grow. Break the chains of control. Break the chains of control.
So wheat, eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Welcome to your Sunday night edition of Rogue Ways. I am here to bring you so much joy today, just as you bring me joy. I have a bunch of new stuff to show you guys. I've got a call-in episode today coming up. I'm going to talk about period shaming because apparently that's a thing that passed me by my whole life, so interesting. And we'll talk about whatever you guys want, honestly, because if you call in, then we'll talk about whatever you're talking about. So that'll be exciting. I'm excited to do that. And of course, as always, I like to show you guys some things here. Yay, Austin Beach is here. He made it. There's other people too. They just haven't said hello yet, Austin. Maybe your influence of saying hi will push them to say hello too. I like to remind you guys that CoreySharman.com is my site. RogueWays.org will get you there. So RogueWays.org, just do it. You can get there easy peasy. All kinds of stuff here for you to read and look at if you're into reading things, poetry, articles, all kinds of stuff. There's guest authors and things like that. I always point it out, I love the tag cloud down here in the Noosphere because you can just pick a topic and see what's in that category. You can subscribe, of course, by email. I'm always surprised that the number is this high and climbing. I think that's cool. You can link to my subscribe star to here. You can see old episodes of Rogue Ways. You can look at my published work. I swear to God, you guys, I'm getting the sequel to Sine Curve out within a few weeks. I have to. It's my commitment to myself. So I keep getting distracted by all kinds of projects, some of which I'm going to show you tonight, and that's just how my life works. I do a million things at once, and finish all of them just stretches them all out because they're all happening at the same time. But if you want to get started on Sine Curve of Aeons, it is the prequel, actually, to the book that is about to come out, which is Earth, A Trough in Time. Sine Curve of Aeons traverses time and space, life and death, aeons and civilizations. It is a love story. It is an action story. It is an exciting look at the yugas and the cycles of time that humanity rises and falls throughout and the progression thereof. A lot of that balance of sacred masculine, sacred feminine in that story. It's a pretty awesome story. There's the hardcover of that book as well if you'd like to get a hardcover version. A Gypsy on the Res is my memoir about a time teaching on a Native American reservation. It's a bunch of very short vignettes that are hilarious or sad or profound, just depending on the moment. Overall, it is a hopeful book. And Mutable Realia is my first collection of poetry I ever released. So those are the books that you can buy. You can always grab a tarot reading. I've been getting more tarots requests coming in, and it's been super fun to meet new people and do new readings with them. I haven't had a person who's disappointed yet. Sometimes the price seems a bit steep to people, but you realize that I put in at least 2 hours of work into every tarot reading, and you yourself, when you buy one, are there present for an hour of it, but there is time before and time after that goes into making sure that your reading is safe and connected. And so it's not so much when you look at it that way, when you look at the fact that you're getting 20 years of experience in that reading. Unlike a lot of readings you can grab for a lot cheaper, but they're coming from people who've been doing them for a couple weeks to maybe a couple years. So I've got a lot of expertise behind me there that you're getting. But more importantly, just the method I think that I use is very safe. It's connected to your spirituality, your highest truth, and that is what makes it profound. You can also, of course, look at the shop. And here's where I'm really excited to show you some shit. But I'm going to say what's up to people. We got Biggie Smollett in the house. We've got Jeff Green. Lacey Mariposa is back. We've got Benjamin Crossland here. Thank you so much for coming, you guys. And, of course, the digital apparition, the sexiest man alive. I know. It's hard to believe, but he joins us often. You'll notice in my Orgonite category of the shop, of course, you can get classes that I teach on various spiritual topics, various types of tarot readings. You can get the Irreverent merch, which has fun shirts in it that you can check out. There's Rogue Ways gear. Ooh, while we're on that, actually, before we get to the Orgonite, let me show you guys that now, if you've been wanting some cheap and affordable Rogue gear, I've now got a sticker magnet combo that's here, and it's only $2. So if you want a sticker and a magnet, that is there for you now. I never listed the stickers before. I just gave them away for free with every order. And now that I've got magnets, it became worth it to list them. So you can get a duo. Put that shit everywhere. But there is a ton more Orgonite. So some of these you'll recognize from past shows, or if you've looked at the Orgonite before, but anything without the maroon background is new. And anything without these rocks below them is new. That's not true. There's rocks below these too. Anyway, you can look. A lot of these are on sale. I marked them down. But a lot of new pendants. If you've been waiting for your chance to get a necklace, a pendant, then there's a bunch of the new ones here. Some of these new plaques are really cool. I really like this Heather and the Reeds one with the 3 diagonal stripes there. That one turned out really neat. I love this messy one here, the Menagerie de Aster. That one is super cool. I love it. A lot of the new pendants turned out really fun. I love Orchid Aura here. This plaque is really neat. And these plaques are meant to just hang on your wall as an art piece in their own. You can put them out in the garden. They're durable. They can get rained on and everything. They're fine. And so you can put them outside too. And there is, of course, a second page because there's so much new Orgonite. Lots of plaques, lots of pendants. So anyways, like I said, if you've been waiting for your chance to get a pendant that's fresh and new, then those are out. You can grab them. These new ones have sort of just the silvery tint, as the old ones have like a little bit of gold, and so they're just a little bit different color palettes and different types of flowers and stuff. But they are all still 4-layer. They all still have the metal, the handmade paper, the pieces or bits of flowers or entire flowers, and of course the quartz crystal of various types of quartz in there. So anyway, just wanted to show you guys that. That's all new. And of course, as always, you can support me on Subscribestar. I love my subscribers. Thank you so much. Especially, and even if you are at the $1 level, I know not everyone can afford to pay a monthly subscription and support other people to do what they love, but that helps a lot just to be at the $1 level. So we've got $1 level, $7, $22, and $55. And just keep in mind that $55 level gets you a tarot reading a month and access to 100% of the content on Subscribestar. Each level gets access to different things, but the $55 level gets all of it and $5 off a tarot reading. So it's a fantastic deal. So check that out. And let's see what's happening in the chat. We've got more people who haven't said hello yet, but they're there. So yeah, let's talk about period shaming. First, here, I'll pull this up. I'm going to open the phone lines at the same time because genuinely, you can call in about anything. I don't care. I just recently discovered that period shaming is a thing that exists, and I was like, what the fuck is that? And I was reading about it, and I was like, wow, this seems ridiculous to me. Maybe you feel differently. Maybe you want to talk about something besides periods and period shaming, and you just want to call in. I just turned the phone lines on. They are open if you want to call. I think I have that all ready to be set up. And of course, the number I'll put in the chat is 74033 Rogue. Not Rogue 4, just Rogue. So 74033 Rogue. Call in if you'd like. At any point, I'm just going to start looking at this article, and you can call and talk about anything that's on your mind, including periods and period shaming. What's up, Benjamin Crossland? I don't know if I said hi to you or not. I lose track of these things, but I'm saying hi to you now. Menstruation shaming, yes. So this is from menstrualhygieneday.org. Apparently there is a menstrual hygiene day. We need a menstrual hygiene day. I'm sorry if I'm speaking from a place of privilege. I don't know, I'm a woman, so apparently I'm oppressed, but I've never been period shamed that I know of. And I honestly think shame is an internal thing. So if you're feeling shameful about it, I think it's coming from you, not from other people. But let's see. The New York Post features findings from a study commissioned by Thinx among 1,500 women and 500 men across the U.S. By the way, Thinx, this brand, this is apparently underwear that women, yes, women, because women have gear that bleeds every month and men don't. Women want to wear this underwear, and apparently you don't have to wear like tampons or pads or anything. It's just fucking weird. I've never wanted to try it. I think it's weird. Anyway, it exists. Thinx is the one who makes them. But Thinx commissioned a study among 1,500 women and 500 men across the U.S. God, this is not working well. So that's where this information is coming from. 2,000 people. A quarter of them men. It found that 58% of women have felt a sense of embarrassment simply because they were on their period. This is what I'm saying. Already, that's stupid. If you feel embarrassed, that's you. That's all you. No one can stop you from feeling embarrassed. No one can choose the things you feel embarrassed about. Some people are embarrassed when they burp. Other people just burp freely. Like, it's nobody's business and it's nobody's control except yours. That's you. I don't understand. Already they're implying things that are implausible. You can't feel shame or embarrassed unless you make yourself feel shame and embarrassed. And yeah, 42 is already popping up. Like Benjamin says, it's the secret to the galaxy. I just heard something about the number 42 that made me think like, oh, that's why it's the secret to everything. But I can't remember what it was. Shoot. That's going to bother me now. Maybe it'll come back to me. Anyway, 42% of women have experienced period shaming. Again, I'm dubious about this claim. I don't know that that's true. They may have felt embarrassment about their period, but I don't know that they were shamed by someone else for it. But let's find out. With 1 in 5 being made to have these feelings because of comments made by a male friend. And I'm just going to pause here and say again, if someone says something that makes you feel ashamed, that's all on you. I don't think, because I doubt that many of these experiences supposedly that happened, allegedly, were from guys who were like, you fucking idiot, you bleed? Oh my God, oh. Like, I doubt that happened. I bet what happened instead was a guy was like, oh, like, you need a garbage can in the bathroom for that shit? Like, because guys don't think about it. Like, maybe there's something like that happened, and that made someone feel ashamed. But again, like, that's not period shaming. That's just you... That's just fucking differences of culture. Like, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what they say. Sounds pretty ridiculous already. I could be wrong. Period shaming could be a huge problem in our society that I just somehow missed. But what's up, Sue Finelli? Make that dinner. Yeah, today I made zucchini noodles and fake ass Alfredo sauce out of cauliflower. Because I'm starting an autoimmune diet because I have Hashimoto's and I'm hoping that I stop having such horrible effects from that. And part of that is eating really, really strictly. So I'm starting that now. So I made that. It was actually really good. What's up, Trey Clark? I bet Trey Clark has been period shamed like a million times. Trey, you're going to have to call in on the call-in line and tell me how many times you've been period shamed and how it makes you feel as a man who has periods. Interesting. Benjamin notices this article came out on the 28th of May, and there's a full moon every 28 days, as well as the menstrual cycle is a 28-day cycle for most women. It's like an average of 28. It can be longer or shorter depending on your cycle. But yes, good call. Trey is period shamed in his butt. Trey says women should hide it and act like it's not happening. See, there's period shaming. Now I know it exists. Thank you, Trey. Oh, Trey, you're funny. So, menstruation. I love this too. This is a great quote. Menstruation is one of the most natural functions in the world. It is the most natural function in the world. There's no functions more natural than this. I'm like, why? How did you rank natural functions and decide that this one is one of the most? It's an amazing statement, full of nothingness. Like, George Orwell would love this statement. He would hate it. He would love it for how much he could hate it. It's amazing. Like, most writers are just shit. No offense to any shit writers out there. Oh, it's a mark of femininity and fertility already. So the people who they're aiming at in this, like their target audience is gonna hate this. It's a mark of femininity because there are allegedly, how do we even say this? There are women who don't have periods because they're men who transition to women, and so now they're women, and so it's, I don't know, maybe I get lost. Forgive me. And fertility, and a huge part of life for most women. It's a huge part of life. I mean, I guess so. I don't know. There's a lot of value statements here that are not based in reason or fact. Yet for some reason, women are frequently made to feel ashamed or embarrassed simply because they bleed. And according to new research, this shaming often comes from those closest to them. Again, you can't be made to feel anything. You feel ashamed because you are ashamed or you are embarrassed. You got to own that shit. That's all you. And then you can just stop. Once you realize it's coming just from you and no one else, you just don't feel ashamed anymore. And now you're done. Now there's no more period shaming. Blam! Solved it. Yeah, more natural than breathing. Exactly. It's a ridiculous statement. Trey says menstruation, definitely a term made up by a man. True. This is the patriarchy at work. Here's that 42 again. 42% of women have experienced period shaming. Oh, that's because it's the same fact. With 1 in 5 being made to have these feelings because of comments made by a male friend. They already said that. Additionally, 12% of women have been shamed by a family member. Oh, man. And 1 in 10 by a classmate. How awful. I'm going to stop right here and point out. A classmate will mock you for anything. You know this. We all know this. Oh, thank you, Trey. I really appreciate your support. Your super chat means the world to me. Thank you so much. So we all know that classmates will mock you for anything. Classmates mocked me because my last name was Brown. They mocked me because my middle name is Charmin. They mocked me because, I mean, they probably mocked me because my first name is Lindsay. They probably mocked me because my eyes, my hair, my everything. Anything that someone can, like, say about you, they can make into a joke. And we also all know that the way to diffuse that is by either laughing with them, being like, yeah, that is funny that my middle name sounds like the toilet paper company. Or to just be like, nothing, no response, walk away, because that diffuses it as well. You could do either of those things and it would stop immediately. But it definitely has nothing to do with those things. It has nothing to do with your name or your eyes or your hair or whatever. It's just, this is just what people do to each other, especially children will just notice something about a person and they'll just like pick it out and like see what result they can get by, talking about it. It's all there is to it. It's like an explorative thing. But you create, the way that people treat you by the way you respond to that type of shit. And we all know that too. We can teach kids immediately how to end bullying in a day, but instead of like teaching the people who are allegedly receiving the bullying, we try to teach the bullies, which is not the way that it works. So anyway, if you've been shamed by a classmate for your period, you've probably been shamed by a classmate for every single other thing that you could think of. And this article is not, however, entitled like name shaming and how to end it. 100% of people have been name shamed by a classmate. Like, that seems like a way bigger problem than period shaming. It's ridiculous. Ugh. The digital apparition is bringing up the Chappelle Show skit with the Rocka pads. That's awesome. Go to your room without dinner, you bloody freak. It happens in every family. That'd be awesome. I mean, I'm sure there's assholes out there that actually do like, but like abusive people who would pick out like a period to focus on would also pick out anything else they could to abuse over. It's not about the period, it's about the abuse. It's the same as mocking people. It's not about the thing, that's just what we do. We mock each other. Kelly says, I was never shamed by friends or men, but growing up, my mom definitely tried to because I had horrible cramps and couldn't function on the first day. Interestingly, I'm glad you brought this up, and I don't know that would be categorized as like period shaming. I guess so, but I mean that sounds like also would be the type of it's almost like a not like abuse. It's kind of abusive. It's kind of abusive to not let someone be sick when they're sick or need what they need in order to feel better. And so that's maybe like its own thing. But it's interesting you bring up the first day, because 100% of women probably agree that the first day is like brutal. You're more likely to have pretty intense cramps, pretty intense bleeding, and like just whatever symptoms, lethargy, whatever symptoms you get, they're going to be the worst on the first day. And so in Turkey, when I worked in Turkey, women had the ability to take every single month the first day of their period off of work, which I was like, this is fucking amazing. Like, no questions asked. You just call in and you're like, it's the first day, and they're like, okay, don't come in. And it's not like a sexist thing where they're like, oh my God, we don't want you around on the first day because you're awful. It's like oh yeah, this is really shitty for you, so you should stay home. Like, we don't have to deal with that. I think it's a beautiful thing. I was like, this is so impressive. This is an amazing thing. I tried to find an article about it to like prove it to you guys besides just my word that it's true. I can't find an article about it. So, but you'll just have to take my word for it. That was true in Turkey. It seemed to be a universal thing that no matter where you worked, that was true. If you were a woman, that was true for you no matter where you worked. So I think we could bring that here and it would be great. Of course, here we would have to argue about who is a woman and who has periods, which is another ridiculous part of this whole entire topic. But yes, they don't shame people there for that, apparently, if that is shaming. Yeah, some people do have really easy periods, and we just have to hate them. Just joking. Yeah, lacking empathy or like a little bit of bullying maybe, or just having that sort of like tough it out. You just gotta go and do it. The digital apparition was freckle shamed. I bet 100% of freckle havers were freckle shamed, and we don't have articles about that. The oppression of the freckled. Dark pants only after 8 to 9 years old. That's early, dude. Are girls having their period at 8? Jesus. That's intense. Some people don't have periods, it's true, and it's somehow controversial to say it. We're supposed to pretend that all people who want to pretend to be women have periods, but it's not true, actually. All right, 44% of men admit to having made a joke about or a comment on a partner's mood when she was on her period. How dare they? It's hilarious because, when I was young, it was like a thing that you did as a woman to be like mad at anyone who would imply that you might be on your period. And you're like, how dare you? That's just period shaming. Oh, we got a call. It's an anonymous caller. You guys, how do I answer the phone? I already forgot. Yes. Answer it. What? I don't know what's happening. It's ringing, but I didn't have a way to answer it. If you call back, I'll try to figure it out. I don't know why last time it was easy and this time I couldn't figure it out. I'm sorry. Please call back, whoever you are. And if you're out there wondering if you should call, you should, and it's 74033-ROGUE. But yeah, sorry about, I don't understand. Maybe there was a different screen that popped up. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We did it before, we can do it again. All right, so 44% of men admit to having made a joke or a comment on a partner's mood when she was on her period. So let's just be really honest here again. When you're PMSing or on your period, you do have mood swings. Everybody knows it's true. There's more tears, there's more anger, there's like more shortness and bitchiness. Those things are true. That's real. So when someone says like, hey, are you on your period? Or like, hey, are you PMSing? I don't know what's wrong with that. That's just the thing. It's a comment. It's a question on the actual reality of what's going on. Again, if you're reacting to that horribly or you think that's incredibly rude, that's all on you. That doesn't mean they shouldn't have asked. If they're trying to be a dick and they're trying to hurt you, that, again, has nothing to do with your period. It has to do with that person is an abusive person who's an asshole, and you probably shouldn't hang out with them anyway. Whether or not it has to do with periods or anything else, people who treat you like that are trash, right? But if someone's genuinely just like, hey, you're like a little emotional, is everything okay? Are you on your period or what's going on? That's just a valid question. That shit happens. That's what periods are like. I don't know who doesn't know that. What else is weird is it rang, but it doesn't have a log. I have a voicemail, but it doesn't have a log of someone calling today. Like, what? What is that? Let's see if we can play. It's doing it again. Like, what the hell? Why? You guys, what's happening? How come I can hear it ringing, see the screen, and I can't answer the phone? Answer the phone. Like, what? Hide the keypad. Oh, at least now it shows someone calls. I'm gonna call you back. Ooh, how about that? Could you guys hear it ringing just now when it rang? Because if not, you probably won't hear the call either. I think I'm calling. Am I not calling? I think I'm calling. Whoever you are, I'm calling you back. It'll show up as anonymous as far as I know. Dude, if you also can't answer, then something's wrong with this. At least this time it said there was a call. I think now it might start to work. I don't know what. Oh. Oh. Hello? Something's ringing.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, this is Lacey.
Oh, hi, Lacey. It's you. It worked.
Hi.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it was saying it was anonymous. I'm just on my phone. I'm not sure why it would do that.
Weird. No, my number should be showing as anonymous to you, and hopefully.
Yes, it is.
Oh, good.
It is.
Yeah, no, it just wasn't working. The first time you called didn't even show up on the log, but the next time you called did. So it's working.
How odd. Well, I'm glad it went through. Well,
yeah.
Glad you're able to get it through. Anyway, so I totally agree with you on how we shouldn't feel ashamed. Like, it's all internal.
Yeah.
But also, so many women don't even know that it's okay to not be ashamed. You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
It's totally programmed into us to be ashamed, and that we should be ashamed.
Do you think that's specific
that.
to women? And if so, why? And then do you think it's specific, if it is it specific to women's periods, or are we programmed to be ashamed about more than that?
That's a great question.
Because I'll tell you why I asked. Because I think that as people in our Western society, we're actually programmed to be ashamed about anything that has to do with sex or reproduction. Right?
So and I think it's about stuff that they can market stuff to us for.
That's a good,
right.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. They can sell us shit to make us feel better about it or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, how they try to, I'm sorry, hang on. They'll try to get you feeling insecure about just about anything they can sell you something for. So I think periods are a big thing for that. I mean, they can sell you all kinds of stuff to make you feel better about the shame of covering up the shame and helping you feel better.
That's a good point.
So I think marketing has a lot to do with it. But also, like, I think it's just another way to keep us feeling unempowered and small and dirty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I definitely have experienced, I don't know if you'd call it period shaming, but I have been made to feel dirty, or not made to feel, because it's all me.
Right.
But I've been the recipient of nasty comments from just about everybody that I've ever slept with, for one thing.
Wow.
As well as, like, my dad and my mom, and, I mean...
Wow.
Yeah. And, you know, another thing is, in a lot of other cultures, women or girls becoming women, they were introduced to their, well, menarche was separate. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Menarche was celebrated with a ceremony, the first period menarche.
Yeah.
And that was a thing. It was a ritual. And rituals are so important to developing people.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. We've lost
coming of age rituals.
Yeah.
Like totally not a thing here.
No, none of them. We have one. You could argue that we have two. One is like a really lame one of getting your driver's license, which I have to point out that most kids don't even do anymore, which is weird,
Right.
but true. So we've also kind of lost that one. And then we have graduation from high school, which again, some people don't do. And then also we just stole it from everyone this year.
Mm-hmm.
So those are
Yeah,
like the two we have, and you're right. There are other cultures not only had that for the first period, but there's a lot of cultures that actually a woman would do a ceremony every month that she has her period.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And pretty much every woman gets a period at some point. But the most initiation that a lot of people get is their mom, like, handing them a box of tampons or leaving them on their bed when they're not in the room or something.
Yeah.
With maybe like an American Girl book
Like,
on
figure it out.
your body. Yeah. So
Well,
that
that would get
seems
to some of the
stigma of shame.
Yeah, that would get to some of the stigma and the shame is if there's no one there to like walk you through it and show you that it's a perfectly acceptable and normal thing to go through, then that is probably where the shame is coming from, right? You're like internalizing that, and then from then on, it's going to be a pretty sensitive subject if you've never dealt with it. You know, you're at the abandonment in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, or, if you get your period and your mom says, well, she's on her period, and dad says, oh, something negative, you know what I mean? Something gross, something just nasty, or just shameful, you know what I mean?
Yeah, not...
Just that alone, just that one experience of having your first period and that being your initiation.
Yeah.
And not that happened to me, but it happens to so many women.
Well, and when you're saying that, I'm thinking also of the opposite that happens to people, which they also feel negative about. So think about this. There's people who's like, their parents are like, oh, you're a woman now, and like, here's all this stuff, and like, oh, and they like treat them like it's all exciting, and they're like, oh my God, like, shut up, get away from me, or like whatever. So there's also...
And it hurts and it's uncomfortable. And
yeah, but like even if the parents treat it like it's this celebration, this great thing, and not necessarily have like a rite of passage, but just at least a really positive response, the person can still then feel negative about that. So it's interesting that it could go both ways and still have the same result. Do you know what I mean? Like that indicates to me that there's something like deeper than that, and that it gets exacerbated maybe if it's a negative response, but that there was something there before the parental response came into play. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that's true, but I feel like there's a programming that comes at a much, much earlier point that has to do with our sort of base chakra and all of the functions and activities that go along with it. So sex, periods, like what is it? What wet dreams or whatever, like all that stuff. I feel like we're all programmed, men and women, to be like, ooh, that shit's bad. Don't talk about it. Hide it.
Right. And it's just I totally agree. And I think it's also an attack on the divine feminine. And I mean,
yes.
I'm not saying that the divine masculine is not being attacked by any means.
Right.
But, that's specific to women.
Yes.
And that it's part of the blood mysteries. It's menarche, and menstruation is, I mean, not everybody goes through pregnancy and birth, which is another one of them.
True.
And then, what's it called? Menopause is the final one.
Yeah.
But it's the transition from maiden or girl to maiden to mother to crone.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So when they keep us down for those experiences. It affects our ability to be in tune with that divine aspect of ourselves.
Absolutely. That is the thing, and it comes back to our sexual selves, which are almost dead in this society. But also you can't even really be an adult, I think, in our world properly without these things, right? So this is it's another factor of that infantilization of all of us.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's part of why I have a problem with this like focus on like period shaming, because I'm like, this is too specific for me, right? Like I think we need to get to the broader thing. Like shame in itself is an issue we should talk about, or like we're talking about rites of passage and how they contribute to the development of a human being. That's something we should talk about, because then it doesn't matter which kind of like subcategory it might fall into. You can recognize the pattern and you can do something about it. But if we're just talking about period shaming, it's like, well, this is so narrow and honestly kind of shallow, and also it's missing all of the like actual actionable points, I think. You know, and it's just like another thing where it's like, oh, you're a victim, you're a woman, you're a victim, the patriarchy's got you down. You can't change it, you're period shamed, and that's it. Like, I hate that narrative.
Yes. So true. And then there's the other thing that we kind of discussed on Facebook, the trans people trying to get all victimized about not having periods. I'm in a Facebook group about menstrual cups, and all the trans people are so offended. Oh my gosh. Because they don't have periods, right? I mean, male to female trans people don't get periods, and they're offended that we define a woman based on, her genitalia.
I mean,
or reproductive organs. And anyway, it's just crazy. It's like blowing up in the groups about how we're silencing people by trying to stay on topic of actually menstruating.
Yeah, there's this article that I was going to pull up too that's like, men can have periods too and we need to normalize this. I'm like, I don't need to do shit. No, as far as I'm understanding biology, men can't have periods. Women who have transitioned to and identify as men, yes, they probably can, unless they've done a bunch of hormone therapy and like sliced up their parts, right? I don't know, but like that doesn't need to be anything that I ever talk about, honestly, unless I'm sitting there with a person who's experiencing that and for some reason they want to talk to me about it and I'm in the mood to talk about it. Then we can talk about it.
Exactly.
I don't know. I just hate how people are like, oh, we need to all talk about this. We need to all focus on it and everyone has to agree. I'm like, no, you can still be identifying as a man and have a period, even if no one in society talks about it. It doesn't actually matter who talks about it. I don't know.
Yep, and nobody is trying to silence your status in the world by trying to stay on topic in a group. Somebody posted this big long thing about how they were male to female, or female to male, and they menstruate, blah, 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 and they were mad about being silenced by just trying to stay on topic. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And they said, at the end of their comment, they said, I just wish that trans people could just enjoy something for once in their life or something like that.
Dude, no one can control if you enjoy something.
Silly like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, could you be any more of a victim? Why do you have to be upset about this? It just doesn't make sense.
No.
And that's not exactly what they said, and it was much funnier. But
that was the gist of it. Yeah, it's that same exact mentality where you're like, well, if I feel this way, it's your fault. And it's like, no. If you feel that way, that's your responsibility. Who knows whose fault it is or if it's a fault at all, but you're the only one who can feel. You're the only one who can change how you feel. And you're the only one who can control how you feel. So it's your responsibility. I hate this like projection outward of all of these things. It'd be nice to feel included. Like, well, then make yourself feel included. You know, find the people who make you feel included and hang out with them or whatever. And if it's not 100% of people, well, that's everyone. None of us have 100% acceptance rate. None of us have, you know, and all of us have various levels of ability to make friends and keep friends and whatever. It's not an oppression thing. It's a you thing.
Exactly.
Amen.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and let you go.
All right.
Thank you very much for the chat.
Yeah, thanks for calling in. Those are some fantastic points. I love your perspective.
I love your perspective, too. Good night.
Bye, Lacey. Oh, that was fun. Hopefully the next person who calls, I get to actually answer instead of having to call them back. Oh, how annoying. Now it's showing the first one that she called. Oh, no, it's not. Never mind. Okay, I'm misreading it. Well, let's jump back. That was a fantastic discussion. I love it. And no, you don't have to be on your period to call in. Anybody can call in. Men, women who identify as men who identify as women, trans people, straight people, gay people, whatever. Any people can call in and say whatever they like. We don't even have to agree on things. We can just talk about it. You can comment on something that Lacey said. You can comment on something from this. You can bring up a new topic like Lacey brought up about, men having their periods. Anything you want. You could even talk about something completely unrelated. I just like to chat with y'all. All right, so did we say this about work? More than half of men believe it's inappropriate for women to openly mention their menstrual cycles in the workplace. This pisses me off. It is inappropriate to mention nobody needs to talk about your menstrual cycles, just like nobody needs to talk about your bowel movements, nobody needs to talk about your urine, nobody needs to talk about your spit. Nobody needs to talk about anything about your private, bodily functions. No one does. You and your doctor might. You and someone who really cares about you and finds it interesting to hear about the specifics of your bodily functions. Maybe. Even then, maybe, whatever. Do whatever you want. But, why would you ever bring any of those things up at work? At work. It's not even talking about, in a friend group or whatever. It's at work. Yeah, no, you shouldn't mention it. It's nobody's business but yours. I don't understand that at all. I know people who intentionally bring things like this up. And those people are usually borderline personality disorder, and they're doing it in order to make people uncomfortable and control the situation. And it's really unfortunate that they feel like that's appropriate. But yeah, I would say that actually... When it says more than half the men studied believe it's inappropriate, I bet it's actually closer to 100%, but I bet a large portion of the people said, no, it's appropriate. We're scared of saying that it wasn't appropriate because they're scared of being labeled sexist. If a guy came up and was like, dude, I took the biggest shit this morning, it was like this, and described it to you, would you be like, this is totally appropriate? People should talk about their menstrual, their fucking shit. No, sorry. I just can't believe that this is a thing that adult humans are saying should be talked about at work. At work! It's work. Honestly, at work, I try to have only discussions about work, and I try not to talk to people about anything else because I don't want to get into fights. I don't want to get into this type of thing where we're wondering about if it's okay or not to talk about our periods together. I want work to be about work, and if we're going to hang out outside of work, then we can talk about that shit. Maybe I'm very weird. I have very specific ideas about privacy. And I was taught them from when I was a child. There's just some things you keep to yourself. Not because it's shameful, but because, it's nobody's business to talk about your menstruation. I don't know. Again, if somebody called right now and they wanted to talk to me about their menstruation, maybe, because we're talking about that, I don't know. But if you just, walked up to me at work and you were like, dude, I was bleeding so much, I'd be like, gross, don't talk to me about that. I don't know. So, now you know where I stand on that. Men are totally programmed to fear PMS, Benjamin says. Yes, I agree. In fact, I think women and men both are. Again, I think we're all programmed to fear and feel shame about anything that has to do with our genitalia. I don't think it's specific to periods. I think periods are just another function of our genitalia or reproductive organs, and that falls under the category. There's a reason why they slice our dicks and our clits up in various cultures around the world. It's the root of us. And if you can fuck with our root, the rest of us doesn't grow very well. Yes, good job, Lacey. Agreed. Chris Phoenix is Batman. Just so you guys know, it's official. What's up, Chris Phoenix? Sorry I'm behind in the chat. I'm catching up. No, it's Chris. Yes, talk about your body functions with your friends. I totally talk about my body functions with my friends, but would you do it at work? And if so, do you think it's appropriate? I don't. I think it's highly inappropriate. I think if you're in public, basically, it's inappropriate to talk about that stuff, unless, again, you're having like a talk about it. Like, we're in public right now, we're talking about it. But like, you know, if you just walk up to like a group of strangers and you're like, I took a shit today. Like, it's just, I just don't get why anybody else needs to talk about it. Yeah, not at work. Yeah, if you're just with your friends and you're like, totally. I'm a weirdo who talks about that with friends too. I don't think it's weird, actually. I think that's what friends are for, but. Michelle Healing Home is here. Dumps and a woman's menstrual cycle is pretty different. I mean, so are feet and hands, but there's also similarities between them, right? I mean, they're both bodily functions that have no business being discussed in polite company. Yeah, I'm sure that people would watch this and say that I'm a period shamer, of course. And I'm sexist, I'm sure, to some people, and I'm sure I'm homophobic to some people, and I'm sure I'm transphobic to some people, but I mean, the things that people call people that for makes the whole like term just completely irrelevant, and it has no meaning anymore. Because you can do something completely unrelated to, like, literally, I criticized Hillary Clinton a couple years ago, and I was called racist. Doesn't make sense. Then I was called sexist. Kind of makes sense. At least you could, like, it's a stretch because I wasn't criticizing anything about her being a female, but I mean, at least she's like a woman. It makes sense. Then I was called homophobic, which also makes no sense. I'm like, okay, so really none of these words mean anything at all. Got it. P.S. I love your art. I don't know if you're talking about me, but thank you if you are. Yes, I'm just going to show off this one again. If you can see, it's very reflective, but some beautiful orchids in there. It's pretty cool. Go check it out, rogueways.org. Lots and lots of orgonite art. What if you work with your friends? Well, yeah, if you're like with a friend at work, they happen to be your friend, or you've happened to develop a friendship with them and you are talking with just them privately and you already know they're okay with it and you guys want to talk about it, sure. But I mean, there's a lot of caveats on that, and most of it involves you have made a private sort of little sphere within which you can talk, you know? But if you're just like bringing it up at the lunch table, like, so guys, I was on my period yesterday and I got this tampon thing going on, like, no. I don't know how that would ever be okay. The blue person painting. Oh, you can see that. Yeah, no, that's Johnny's art. JohnnyLarson.com. That blue woman, she's coming. She's going to be done soon, and she's awesome. I'm going to be so jealous of whoever gets her. She's super cool. Yeah, I'm glad. We're going to actually hopefully arrange things so there's a little bit more art over here, because ever since we got the bookshelf, there's been not as much Johnny art, and it's been kind of sad, so we need more. Yes. Menstrual cycles are part of the creation process, and they are beautiful. And as well as every part of the creation process is beautiful, and it's all sacred, and it should all be honored. And it still doesn't necessarily need to be talked about in public. It's the same with birthing, you know? Like, some people want to, like, show pictures of the actual birth and, like, talk about it, and like, that's cool, again, in, like, with people you know want to hear about it and talk about it in, like, that private sphere you've created with one another. Rad. But if you just walked up to people and you were like, check out my baby coming out of my vagina, like, I think that's highly inappropriate. So many people don't want to see that or talk about it in public. If we were in a totally different culture, I can imagine a culture in which you can walk up to any people in the fucking culture and be like, periods and babies and poop and anything you want, and it'd be totally fine. But that is not our culture. We have public and we have private, we have polite, and we have impolite. There's just, I don't want to hear about people's bodily fluids and things, personally. Like, at all. The blue flower. Yeah, the blue lady. She's like a nature spirit. She's got the city and the pollution held in her. Oh, can I grab her? Let me see if I can grab her. Johnny, I hope you're okay with me showing people this when it's not done. Because I'm gonna. She's freaking awesome. Dude, she's probably on her period all the time. Like, seriously, I love her so much. I love that there's vines and branches and flowers coming out of her head. I love that she has the city and, like, all the pollution and smog just contained in her little like, cage of nature, branches and shell. Like, she is my favorite. I love her. Sorry, that was just an aside, but you guys brought it up, so now it's not on the wall, of course. Here, we'll put it back. I should do stand up. No, Johnny should do stand up. He's actually funny. You should see all of his art up there. I wonder if I can just, no, I'm gonna knock shit over if I move things, but we'll get more art in here because his stuff is awesome. Chris says, me and the peeps I hang with are in healthcare, so we could watch a video of a heart transplant over dinner, not bad night. Exactly, and that's actually a great point, is that everybody has a different level of comfort. I would hate to see a heart transplant. I hate when people, like, take a picture of their, like, thumb that they smashed and put it on Facebook, because I'll be scrolling and see it, and I'm like, no! Like, I'm really sensitive to shit like that, and I don't want to see it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want people to tell me about it. I hate it. Anyway, talking about 9/11 being an inside job with people in public. Yeah, I don't know why you couldn't. I mean, that's just a thing that happened, right? I don't know. I don't know why that would be a private matter. I mean, that was a public event. All of the discussion about it was public. It was on the news publicly. Like, the report that they did was public. It's a public matter. Yes. Okay, Lacey, perfectly. Thank you for saying it that way. Lacey says, in my opinion, all the blood mysteries should be respected and revered with respect to their intimacy. Why would you want to give birth in front of people you wouldn't have conceived in front of? Thank you. And it's exactly the same, I think, with sharing details of it. It's like you would share it with people who would respect it, revere it, you know, enjoy hearing about it and being a part. Like, I loved hearing about my friends and my sister's birth stories. I think it's amazing. Some stranger tried to tell me their birth story, I might be like, I don't really care as much, but it's still cool, like, good for you. You know? And then if they wanted to get into, like, gory details, I'd be like, ew. But again, when my sister's telling me gory details, I'm like, wow, this is fascinating. But it's just, we're intimate. We've known each other for years, and it's a different story. I just don't think you should just flaunt that all around. Exactly. I think part of it being private makes it valuable, right? Oh, yeah. Benjamin Crossan says, thinking about alchemy process, the alchemical process, the red of the period, the red is sort of like the lower mind or the base materials. And then the lack of sort of like, I'm going to change what you're saying a little bit because I think this is what you're saying. The lack of sort of like alchemizing that into something more, like creating it, uniting it with the other half so fully that you create something entirely new. You know, when you don't do that, it remains red and then it comes out in this blood. That's really, really interesting. I love how much that correlates with the alchemical process. As I think about the alchemical process on a spiritual level, I think about it on the physical level in the sense of doing alchemy with like plant spagyrics and those type of things. But I have not really thought about it in that exact process of birth giving. Nice job, Benjamin. Way to go. That is awesome. So then the blue would be the sperm or the ejaculate, and then the white would be the baby, right? Am I right? Tell me if I'm right. Oops. Oh, there we go. Thought I lost the chat. Again, if you want to call in and talk about anything, it's 74033-ROGUE. Feel free to call, chat about masks, coronavirus, periods, alchemy, whatever you like. I know it's kind of scary, but it's also not. I think I make it easy. Oh, okay. 7 in 10 women have asked a friend to walk behind them during their period to check if it was showing. Like, that's just like a thing you do. That's just a method of checking to see if it's showing or not. There's nothing shameful about that. And there's no shaming in that. Unless, like, what they're implying is that you should just walk around with blood all over your clothes. It's totally cool. Like, no, it's a biohazard. And it's also not appropriate to walk around in public with blood on you. Why would that be appropriate? Of course you want to check and see if it's showing, because you want to then remedy it if it is. It's a problem if it is. Not because it's, like, shameful that you're on your period, but because you don't want to get blood on things. How is that shaming? This is stupid. It's stupid. But visual shame isn't the only part of this stigma against women in their periods. 63% of women have canceled plans because they were dealing with PMS. Again, that's not shaming. That's not shameful. If you don't feel good and you don't feel like having friends with people or like having fun with people because you're not in that mood, or you're like you feel ill sometimes, you feel crampy, you feel angry or sad. Like, if you don't feel like going out, don't go out. There's nothing shameful about that. Why would that be shaming? None of this even makes sense. This is just a list of things that happen on your period. Ugh. Oh no, I don't feel like you're being combative at all, Michelle. Menstruation is public knowledge, as in the fact that it occurs is public knowledge, yes. But again, do you walk around talking about pooping? Do you walk around talking about, like, breast milk and how you had to express it because your kid wasn't nursing? I don't know. Maybe you do. Maybe you have a totally different, and that's cool. That's where you're at. I would say that, like, a lot of people don't want to hear about most of those things unless they know you well and care deeply about you. But it's not combative to like disagree or say your opinion. It's awesome. Everybody should have their truth and do whatever they want with it. But again, if you were too afraid to mention your period, that is 100% you. You need to then get to the point where you're happy to be on your period and you're happy to mention it to people if it's a person who wants to have it be mentioned to them, or whatever. That's an internal thing. No one can make you feel less afraid to mention it except you. I mean, yeah, there might be people who might be like, hey, Michelle, like, talk about it. It's great, and, like, encourage you. But at the end of the day, you're the one who has to internalize that and be like, you know what? I am going to talk about it, or I am going to feel this way about it because that's better and that's right. And that's, oh, I think there's 2 calls happening at once now. I can answer one of them.
Call from
Benjamin Crosland.
It's Benjamin Crosland.
Press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Pressing 1. What's up, Benjamin Crosland? No, you're gone. I don't know what just happened. Benjamin, you can feel free to call back. But yes, a lot of us are emotionally insecure, especially when we're young, especially when we're teenagers, and especially since, again, I think that 100% of people are programmed to feel shame about their sexual organs, sexuality, and sexual functions. So boys are also just as ashamed, I would say, to talk about random erections and ejaculations and wet dreams, you know? Why is it doing it twice?
Call from
Benjamin Crosland.
Benjamin Crosland, is that you?
It is.
It is, you're here, you made it. I don't know what happened last time. I tried to answer and then it hung up on you.
I hung up because you had 2 calls, so I figured I'd let him have a chance.
Well, that was nice of you. I actually think somehow what's happening is that when you call, it's ringing twice and they're slightly offset. But anyway, we made it. You're here. What's up? How's it going?
Oh, it's going great. It's nice to be able to talk about things that I just was almost outlawed where I'm at. So
where are you at?
Nice to
if you
want
to say.
Some thoughts out.
You don't have to.
Pinedale, Wyoming.
Oh, wow. You're just right north of me.
Yeah.
They say that Wyoming has the highest suicide rate because it's so windy. Do you feel that way?
I think it's a lot like media just putting stuff out there to make people feel that way. I don't witness that,
awesome.
So it's kind of weird that it's always been said. But
fascinating.
But I don't have firsthand knowledge of that. But
yeah,
I would say it is depressing when you wake up October 28th last year, where it was negative 48.
Oh, geez.
So that doesn't get you in the best mood.
No, that would be rough. That would be rough, especially that early. So you have like 6 months of winter, I guess.
That was the worst day of last year's winter season.
Oh, wow.
It was October 28th, though, so that was weird. So we had one little spell, and then the rest, I think the closest was -20, so that was definitely the high cold. But I love the kind of the topic that you're talking about. I think it's fascinating to me.
Thank you.
And you have so many great things you always just engage in. They're completely different. I think this is just, I love where my mind's eye goes when I hear your topics. And this PMS with creation is just kind of tickles me. You recently had a podcast with like the water. Water has memory.
Oh right, yeah. That was actually a really old one, but I'm glad you found it.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was a recent one, but yeah, I was at least listening to that. And I recently was doing some study on the salts, and salts actually have the memory. Water will transfer it to the salt, and the salt actually does the storing. I have no clue if this is true, but
I think
you're
right.
When they say about 12 salts and all of alchemy, how it breaks into the spirit, the salt, all that kind of
and
thing.
It's
I'm like, man, the salt seems so true.
The salt, and so that's like a crystal, and we know quartz crystal also is used for computers and storing information and data, so that makes perfect sense. And also that water is the feminine aspect, so water would be like the void, like the empty potential waiting for the information to sort of program it. So that makes sense too. Oh
yeah, absolutely. You have to have the male and the female to actually have to do a creation, have to come up with a new concept or a new idea. Yeah, and the crystal thing was great too, because I recently got these tuning forks, and they weren't really working the greatest with me. But then I started using crystals with them. I'm like, boom, whoa, that was pretty intense.
Wow.
And I thought it was just fascinating when you said crystal. I know salt's always represented a crystal, but when you said that, it just kind of rang to me some truth. But the PMS thing too. I mean everything with creation. And we're supposed to be creators, and they just try to deny every aspect of us acknowledging that within ourselves.
Yes.
And I think we're just now realizing it, and everyone's just waking up to the fact that we are creators, and we're meant to be creators. And if you deny that within you, you have certain things in you that are died. You get, like you said, the suicide thoughts, or maybe the depression, or part of you dies in a sense. You aren't living. You're not being a creator. Well, we are, from my perspective, we are, the Father and the Son. The Father being, in the aspect, we're supposed to teach the Son of ourselves to be the creator of ourselves.
Yes.
And it's just one of those things I think is waking up in all of us, the ones who are seeking and finding, because I think if you totally seek, you will find it if
Absolutely.
You are passionate about it. And it's just, I don't know, it's just amazing to me, and I just, so appreciate your show and all these different angles you come at it. I mean, you come up with such hardcore passion.
Thank you.
Man, it just gives me hope,
Oh, that makes me so happy to
that
hear.
we're going to have we're going through a brighter phase, especially what's going on in everything in the media. It's so nice to see a voice like yours speaking, from my perspective, showing the light instead of the darkness. And just thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for saying so. That really makes me feel happy about what I do. I seriously, I don't know if people know, but I started this show just because I was led to do it. And my main goal is to try and empower people, give people hope. And also I like to learn and talk. And so it just works. But when you're talking about, creating the sun, and therefore creating ourselves, it was making me think about this very simple thing that I think is true, which is if you want something for yourself, you have to give it to someone else first, right? And I think we see it very easily when we think about teaching, right? If I teach something, the reason why I understand, I recently did 1984 and Brave New World, and the reason I understand them in that much depth is because I've taught them so many times. And so in teaching it and giving it to someone else, I've actually given it back to myself tenfold, and I have this much deeper experience of it and understanding of it because of that. So when you were saying that, that's what it's making me think of, right? Is that process of we actually have to, ironically, give it away, put it somewhere else for it to come back to us. And so I think that's mirrored in that process you're talking about too.
I mean, you nailed it right there. I mean, I have been driven to materialism my whole life, and I had a daughter 5 years ago, and
congratulations.
Her teaching me, it just blows my mind. I mean, I try to teach her things and do all that, but she gives it to me tenfold back. I mean,
Yes.
of what I've learned, and it's just amazing how that process is. How I try to teach her something, and I learn 10 things back. I'm like, holy cow!
Yes.
I'm really trying to teach you this, but I am learning so much from you, and it's totally the creation process. I might be screwing up, and I think I'm telling her the truth,
Yeah.
but did I come up like, oh, I wasn't telling her the truth. I was full of shit. But I got relieved. I got shown the truth by trying to show her the truth. You know, I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I was wrong. It was just like, this is such a magical world if you do it like you are, and you're speaking your truth from your perspective, and you get just revealed so much by that path
Yes.
of living the truth. Because unfortunately, we live in a world of just complete lies, and we live in the upside down, you know, and it's hard to go down that path. But if you go that path, it will be revealed to you. It's so beautiful, and man, I try to tell this to people, and I've literally been threatened with my job many times. Stop,
Oh.
stop! You're giving too much people pain. But that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
You know? But me dealing with that has opened up a whole new world to me, and it's just like the fear of death. You know, it's like that whole concept. You know, once you don't fear, wow,
Yeah.
you could live.
Right.
And it's a small little concept. It's going on and on. Where if you live, I don't know. I can't even explain to you, but I know you know where I'm coming from.
Oh yeah.
And it's just amazing how it unfolds, and you really can't almost explain it. It's something you have to go through to it being revealed to you.
Yes. No, you're absolutely right. I think you did explain a lot. You said you can't explain it, but you actually explained a lot, and I think it's really profound, all the things that you're touching on. And I really like that recognition that you know, you're teaching your daughter, but you're learning too. And I think this is something that a lot of people miss too. They're like waiting for a teacher, or they think they are the teacher, and they think therefore they can only teach, and they forget that actually if you're not learning just as much or maybe even more than you're teaching, you're probably doing it wrong. And this is part of that like thing where you know, it keeps you humble, because you might be a teacher of some things, but everyone else is a teacher of something else. Your students are teaching you back. You're a student of them. Like, it is always going both ways, and if it's not going both ways, something has broken down, and something is misaligned. And so it's a really powerful concept, actually, and I hope people take that to heart. And like you're saying too, with you know, if you seek, so shall you find. I think people also forget that if you are genuinely asking a question, you are genuinely seeking the answer, it is absolutely going to find you. It's like whether or not you're listening is the other question, right? Or whether or not you're paying attention. Because
Right.
if you're in that mindset of like, well, I'm the student, I couldn't possibly teach, or like, well, I'm the teacher, they're not teaching me anything, then you're gonna miss the answer, right? So if your perspective's not there and not correct, then you might miss it. But it's not that it didn't come. It's not that you weren't answered. It's that you missed the answer.
You have to think that you might be wrong on everything you might know.
Right.
I mean, you can be the most intelligent person on a certain subject and know all the ins and outs and everything there is about everything, but you don't have the actual knowledge of going out there and planting the garden.
Yes.
You might know every textbook thing there is possibly to memorize in a textbook, but actually going out there and how to properly water, or you know how that type of soil, the texture, or the smells and everything that you just learn you only can learn through firsthand experience. And they say, in like our school system, is all about memorization, just this intellectual just masturbation that everyone just goes through.
Yeah.
And you just can't get it. You just can't get it.
No.
And you know, and we're told to deny, like, for me, like the connection to the ether, you know, like our instincts, or connect to the memory of the salts, or you know, all that intuitional thing that we get by an inspiration, or through dreams, or just like the whole. First, you have to have the mind to think of the idea before anything's ever created, and it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm sure I'm leaving enough time, and I'll just let you go. And I just appreciate your show, and thank you for everything.
Awesome. Thank you so much for calling in, Benjamin. It's awesome to put a voice to the name. I'm sure we'll talk again someday.
I'd love to. Bye.
All right, bye. Yeah, I don't know what the audio is fine when I'm actually talking to you guys, but when you call, it like rings double somehow. But that was awesome. Awesome. Good call, Benjamin. Thanks for calling in. It is fun to talk to you guys. It is fun. I'm going to see, where were we? Oh, this too. They say 40% people made a false explanation for not going out. Again, that's you. And again, if you're hanging out with people who are going to shame you for like, if you're like, I don't really want to go out, I feel sick. And they're like, why? What are you feeling sick? And you feel pressured to tell them that you're on your period or whatever. Like, that's just as messed up as not being able to say, oh, I'm on my period and that makes me feel sick, so I don't want to go out. You know, like, either way, you're hanging out with the wrong people. You should be able to say what you feel like you need to say and not say what you don't want to say, or else they're probably not the best of friends. Who knows? Period shame, period shame. Again, if you feel ashamed about periods, you gotta fix that in you. You cannot change other people, but you can change yourself. People are not honest about their period struggles. 62% claim they have experienced others failing to take their period pain seriously. Yeah, that again, this is another thing where I think we're like focusing in too narrow. Come back out a little bit. I think 100% of people have experienced others failing to take our pain seriously. Who cares what kind it is? That's, I forget if it was Lacey or maybe it was you, Michelle. I don't remember who brought it up, but they said their parents, made them feel like they should just like get over it and go out to the world and just like do stuff and whatever. But like that has happened to me from like having a cold or my back pain. People never take my back pain seriously. My whole life, I'm not old enough to have back pain, or like it's not serious because I'm young or whatever. Like, it's ridiculous. It's just a thing I think that happens. But again, if it's someone who I care about and I take the time to be like, look, here's what's actually going on, this is like a serious thing, and they still don't take it seriously, like that person is not someone I want to relate with anymore because they don't treat me with respect. It has nothing to do with my period or my back. It has to do with respect and bullying, and, that's very different from, it's just, I don't know the point in focusing just on the period aspect of that. The phenomenon itself is disturbing, no matter what it's attached to. So, whatever. Just going through point by point of this, because when I first read it, this is what was going through my head too. I was like, seems ridiculous to me. The shaming that occurs regarding open conversations about women's bodies is so ingrained that 1 in 3 say they often feel uncomfortable using the term vagina around others, and 62% admit that they have felt irked simply by using the word period. Okay. Again, we have to back up. Like what? So let's go back to this point. They say the shaming that occurs regarding open conversations about women's bodies. That, if we had any evidence about that, we could have an actual conversation about shaming and women's bodies. But they just put that out as though it's like an axiom at which we all just have to accept that shaming regarding open conversation about women's bodies is so prevalent. Which I don't experience. I don't know. Maybe you do. I don't see a lot of open conversation about anyone's bodies. I do see shame involving talking again about like our private parts, our bathing suit areas in public. I don't think that that's shaming. I think that that's just a level of comfort and privacy and intimacy. And so I don't know if it's even specific to women. But anyway, again, like this is an unproven claim that has no evidence. But then moving on, again, if you feel uncomfortable using the term vagina, especially if it's something that you're like having a conversation about vaginas for some reason, and you can't say the word vagina, like again, that's you. You have to get comfortable saying the word vagina. If someone else around you is like, you're an idiot, you said vagina, like that person has a problem and you probably shouldn't talk to them anymore. But if you just feel uncomfortable saying it, like you have to get comfortable saying it. It's just none of it has anything to do with periods. I don't know. They're irked. They felt irked by using the word period. I don't even know what that means, so I just have to move past it. Like, you felt irked by using the word period? What would you rather say or whatever? I don't know. This one's also weird. Half of women resorted to using more palatable names for their periods. 87% using time of the month, 36% saying monthly visitor, and 34% referring to it as Mother Nature. And so those are all allegedly more palatable than period. Like, what are we supposed to use? Are we supposed to say monarchy, however you want to pronounce that? Like, if we're not saying that, so isn't period also a euphemism? Like, is that bad? What's wrong with that? It's just like people say breasts, boobs, titties. Like, none of those is bad, right? Are any of those shameful? Are any of those, is using a euphemism or just like another word for something bad? They've resorted to it. Like, I feel like this actually asked people, like, have you ever called your period any of these things? And people were like, yeah, I have. And they were like, see, they resorted to using other words. And it's like, it's just a word, right? I don't know. You guys tell me if I'm way far off or what. Like, I don't see what's wrong with that. I don't see what's wrong with saying monthly visitor. I don't see what's wrong with time of month. Just like earlier I said, like, take a crap, take a shit, poop, bowel movement. There's a lot of words for it. Or is there something wrong with saying some of them as opposed to others? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think it implies shame to use poop instead of crap or whatever. I'll stop talking about poop someday, I promise. When I'm dead. Shopping is an issue, apparently. 44% of women surveyed have felt awkward while buying tampons or pads. No one can make you not feel awkward. That is your problem. You have to get over it. People feel awkward buying medicine. Is that like medicine shaming? No, it's just you feel awkward. It's a pretty private thing to buy medicine. You don't really want other people to know what medicine you take. And then there you are with some stranger. They're staring at your medicine. Like, it's a private thing. It's not, if you feel awkward about it, it's fine. If you don't want to feel awkward about it, you have to take control of that. No one else can change that. 15% felt so uneasy that they've resorted to buying them online. Again, resorted to it. There's nothing wrong with buying it online if you want to buy it online. If that makes you feel happy and comfortable, that's not shameful. No one made you feel shamed. You just wanted to buy it online. It's a preference. People have also resorted to buying clothes online. Like, does that make them ashamed of clothing? I don't understand such flawed logic. Michelle says, there's a social conditioning that takes place around women's period being gross. I think that's where the feeling of shame comes from for most women. Yes. And again, I think that there's a social conditioning that takes place around all genitalia functions being gross, and that shame is attached to all of those functions. I think it's attached to poop. I think it's attached to pee. I think it's attached to periods. I think it's attached to ejaculation and ejaculate, or whatever, wet dreams, all of it. All of it has shame attached to it. I don't think there's any human being who has, I mean, I shouldn't say that. There's tons of human beings who don't have shame, but like, I don't think there's any human in our society who has completely escaped unscathed from that campaign of trying to control our root chakra. And there's a reason for that. I don't think periods are specific, and that's why this article bothers me, is a lot of it is very illogical and inappropriate, but also it imagines that this is like a feminine oppression thing. When in my experience and my understanding, it's a human oppression thing to have our genitalia be so focused on for, shame. That's my point. These people really do feel shame about their periods. It's just no one else's fault. You have to recognize that in yourself and be like, oh, there's nothing gross about this, and I don't want to feel ashamed about it, and so I'm not going to anymore. I'm not going to treat it like it's weird or gross. I'm just going to do it. It's just a thing that happens to me. And if there's people around me treating me poorly, I cut them out of my life, because anyone treating me poorly for anything, whether it's my period or what I eat or how I look or what I wear, or what I drink or any of it, they're not my friends anymore. That's not how you treat me. That's a me thing, right? That's what I have control over. Of course, there's another option. 65% of women ask their partner to buy pads or tampons for them. And then in a heartening show of solidarity, nearly 3/4 of men would be fine with performing the task. I think that's amazing. That's not just a heartening show of solidarity. That's amazing. Why? I wouldn't want to go buy somebody something to stick inside of their dick or whatever. I think I would do it if they asked me, because I'd be like, wow, you must be really hard up if you're asking me to buy that for you. Like, you must need my help. I want to support you. It's really cool that 75% of men are that supportive and caring. Like, that's awesome. That deserves a huge round of applause. I didn't even think like 50% of people are that caring about their, like, you know, like, I think that's amazing, but they just kind of brush past it. And then they say, though the answer is a no from a concerning 17% of guys. No, what's concerning is that you have a problem not listening to them say no. Why can't they say no? If I ask someone to buy me anything and they say no, I just say, okay. That's all. That's the end of that story. I don't attach any, like, hey, that's a shaming. You're shaming them. Like, they're allowed to not buy you shit. Ugh. It seems fucked up to me. I think this is the part that bothers me on this whole article that I think is actually wrong, is that there's no reason why you should be able to make a guy feel bad for not wanting to buy you something. It's ridiculous. It doesn't matter what it is. If I asked you to go buy me bullets and you felt uncomfortable for it, and I was like, how? 20% of people wouldn't buy me bullets. This is a problem in our society. Like, no, there's just people who don't want to buy some things. It's fine. It's their prerogative. That's what they feel comfortable with. It's abusive to try to force them to, or try to make them feel bad for not. Makes me angry. Sorry. I'll check in with the chat. What's up, Jillian Griffel? Diva Cup, make a painting with it. Yeah, and then don't ever talk to me about it or show it to me. But people bake with it and shit. Like, you should do whatever you want with your period blood. I just would never want to play with body products and biohazards myself. Scented feminine products is an example. As if the natural scent of a woman was undesirable and should be covered up. But again, if we're being honest, there are definitely some scents that are not positive. They don't smell good. That from all humans, from all parts of our body at all, various times in our life. But yes, the scented products are actually toxic and carcinogenic, and they're disgusting, in my opinion. But I think it's also, there's a thing about that too, where it's like, is it my job to shame other people for wanting scented products in there? Probably not, right? If that's what they want to do. Jillian wants to paint with her period blood. Go for it, Jillian. Somebody wants to buy scented feminine products. Go for it, them, right? Like, it's all people can be respected for what they want to do. None of our concern what they do with their genitalia. But it does go back with that scented products to what Lacey was saying, where, some of this shame is, some of the shame which I think all humans are instilled with in their root chakra from the moment of birth. I think that it's exacerbated in various ways throughout our lives, and one of the ways that it is done is like what Lacey said, and then they want to maximize that shame in order to sell you these products, and the scented products probably cost more, I'm guessing. I don't know, because I've never bought them. I think it's gross. I get unbleached organic cotton. That's how I roll. But yeah, they definitely do that. Douches, all that shit is nasty for you. Unless you're doing like a saltwater one, I bet that'd be fine. I don't know. I don't know anything about that. And yes, distracts us from going inside. It distracts us from being like really identified with that part of our, not identified isn't the right word. We're really present with that part of our body, with that chakra, with that energy center. That's a powerful energy center. That, your genital area, I mean, that's literally the root of your being energetically. And it's also the center where all creation happens. That's all your power. All your power is right there. And if you're disassociated from it, that's the problem. And so yes, shame is a problem. But just the way that it's framed in this article is 100% wrong. Nothing in this article so far has been psychologically, emotionally, mentally, physically, like, correct and appropriate. None of it. It's all been, and it's honestly man shaming. This article is, I think. But what's up, Regan? Regan's in the house. Yeah, it's actually what Benjamin says. We hide our true scent and we need to smell each other again. It's seriously, if you've not like found great pleasure in smelling your partner, you know, they're pheromones. Like there's pheromones. They're a real thing, and they're actually, that's chemical, and it has a lot of information in it, and it's a very intimate thing. And if you're not participating in that, you're probably not very involved in your sexual body or your sexual relationship, and that is a sad thing. Everyone, if you haven't yet, should go watch the episode of Rogue Waves entitled "The Desecration of Sex," because it's all about how we are disassociated from our sexual body, and it's a huge problem for us. Haven't had your period in 18 months, you miss it. Oh, I can't wait. I'm so excited for that. I don't know, I'll probably miss it too, who knows. But yeah, I've heard that about tampons too, that they're like, there's actually something like energetically wrong with like plugging up this thing that's supposed to be flowing out instead of like letting it come out. So that is also an interesting point. I wonder, Michelle, let me know what you think about the cup. Do you think that that's also a plugging, or is that like catching a flow, or is there a difference or whatever? I'd like to know your take on that. Let's see. Also encouraging is more than 70% of women are comfortable talking about their period with their partners. 71% say of men say they're fine with it. Two, again, if you're with a partner that you can't talk about things like that with, that's probably not the best partner for you. And again, I shouldn't judge, because if you just don't want to talk to anyone about it and that's where you're at in life, like cool. But if you feel like for some reason you like talked about it, your partner would like hate you, or I mean, if this is like going to happen to you every month, you might want to be cool with talking about it. If you're going to like have sex and make babies, you should probably be able to talk about periods. So, but again, that's like a you thing. You chose that partner. Are they the best partner for you? Maybe not. Maybe they can grow with you though. Maybe you can both grow together. Okay, this. I don't get how this would ever have to do with period shame. As for menstruation in the bedroom, more than half of women and men say they aren't fans of period sex, with 28% of women and 1 in 3 men saying that they have never tried it. That's fine. That's great. Who cares? That's like saying, like, you know, 60% of people have never tried anal sex, or like, who cares? Like, that's what they want to do with sex. It's none of my business. Why would that have anything to do with anything? Have sex on your period or don't. Doesn't matter. Why would it be? Nobody needs to even fucking know. It's like not, how is that period shame? It's not period shame. I have this person in my life who's like, oh, you should totally have sex on your period. And I'm like, what if I don't want to? You know, like, well, why wouldn't you? Or is someone making you feel ashamed about it? Like, no, I just like don't want to. Is there something wrong with that? Like, well, I mean, it's great. You should, what? It's great for you. It's not great for everyone. Not everyone wants to do it. It's nobody's fucking business. There's a billion types and ways of sex that people don't want to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. You should have sex exactly like you want to have sex. That's what you should do. Unless it's with children, and that makes you someone who should be murdered. Everything else is good. The cup might be all right to use if you're trying to harness the blood for use. What if you're not? What if you're just dumping it? Then it's not okay. But only for a short time with intention. I'm of the opinion that you should use a cup, pad, tampon, or anything you want, because that's what you want to do. But I can see an argument about energy flow, and I could be swayed by that argument perhaps. 18 to 19% of men and women claim to be fans of period sex, but 31% of men describe period sex as gross, and 35% brand it inappropriate. I mean, that's fine. It is gross. It's blood. Like, it's gross to people. It's also not gross to other people. Like, who cares? Such a stupid comment. I just hate this idea that, like, you're somehow oppressed or, like, wrong for not having period sex. That's wrong. That's shaming. That's fucked up. 1 in 3 women have a partner refuse to have sex upon finding out that they're having their period. That's great. They should. They should do whatever they want. They should have sex when they want and not when they don't. This is horrible. The end of this article is horrible. Oh. More than 1/3 of women have felt pressure to perform other sexual acts on their partner because they or their partner didn't want to engage in intercourse during menstruation. Again, you have an abusive partner then. You should not be with that person. That's completely a power thing. Has nothing to do with it. That's messed up. Don't be with people who try to force you to do things. Ever. Anyway, this article I think is real dumb. But if you like it, it's at menstrualhygieneday.org. Nearly half of U.S. women experience period shaming is the name of the article. And this is the only part of the argument that I can see, is that there's this poverty issue. For some reason, this whole article focuses on black people. I guess that's just very trendy right now, as though black people are the only people who are impoverished around the world. Anyway, it's just talking about how women and girls who don't have the right, I shouldn't even say right, that don't have the type of products that privileged people have access to, end up maybe bleeding on themselves, and then it's embarrassing. So that's true. It'd be cool to get people period products. I don't think that that's period shaming. I think that that's just not having access to things that would help you keep biohazards from other people's access or whatever. And yeah, I guess we'd have to do a whole nother episode if we want to talk about like the whole trans the whole trans bigendered thing, and periods would be a whole other episode that it would be interesting to talk about. It'd be cool to talk with we have some trans people in the group, and it'd be cool to talk with people who are not in the victim mentality about how they feel about people who try to compel language or, force conversation or, force acceptance or force media inclusion of different things. And that'd be a fun conversation to find someone, again, who's not in the victim mentality and who has thoughtfulness about it. Intention is a new art I'm learning again. Yes, our intention is powerful. Intention is powerful, and being conscious and present in each moment with intention is transformative. If the energetic aspect of your period is of importance to you or is something you'd like to connect with more easily, Michelle is saying, what works for you? The cup plug, so short-term use would be best. It could be true. I just also think this energetic idea is something that is more mental, emotional. So if you feel plugged up and you're like internalizing this, you're imagining it, you're intending it and projecting it, then you're going to get that. But if you don't feel that, I don't know that it can just happen, by accident. It's like the temperature taking thing, and people were like, if they're taking your temperature every day and it's right on your third eye here, is it like beaming up or putting in like a, blockade to your third eye, or like messing with the energy there? And the real answer, which I think any intuitive person would understand, is that no, not if you're not letting it. Right? If you're aware, you're present, you're here in your space, and you're like, this is not affecting me. That's not going to affect you. And I feel like it could be similar with our periods. Again, I could be persuaded if I had persuasion presented, facts and ideas and whatever. But yeah, I wonder. Always with the full moon. Mine is not 28 days, so I'm not always with any. I never have been. I've always been 25-dayer. So the moon phase changes throughout time for me. Like for a while it'll be around the new moon, and then it'll shift to the quarter and then the half and whatever. And yeah. But I will say, like Lacey and I had talked about, I think it is important to honor yourself in all the ways we talked about here, right? If you want to use pads, use pads. If you want to use tampons, use tampons. You want to use cups, use cups. You want to use scented products, use scented products. You want to use organic cotton unbleached, use organic cotton unbleached. If you want to use moss and copper, use that. Do whatever you want. You want to have sex on your period, and so does your partner? Fucking go at it. If you and your partner don't want to do that, don't go at it. One of you does and one of you doesn't, figure out if that's the best relationship for you. Figure out what you need. And if you have to rearrange your relationships, rearrange your relationships. It doesn't matter if it's about your period, your shirt, your hair, the house you live in. like what you like to do for fun. If somebody is shaming you about something, that person is abusive and controlling, and you should ask yourself, why are you letting this person be in your life? You are in control of yourself and your life. No one can shame you, actually. You can allow someone to, and really then you're doing it to yourself. You are doing that. So stop doing that if you don't want to do it. If you want to feel ashamed and like a victim, and like being a woman is this horrible thing that was like pushed on you, and like all these men are holding you down because they don't like periods, like that's all you. You're never going to force a man who's uncomfortable with periods to be comfortable with periods, and it'd be fucked up of you to be that abusive to try. If he wants to be uncomfortable about periods, let him be uncomfortable about periods. It's really none of your fucking business at all. Like ever, and never will be. It's crazy to me that like the people who are calling, you know, oh, I'm being shamed, oh, I'm being oppressed, or whatever, like, they're the ones doing the oppressing and the shaming. Actually, it's almost always true. The people calling racism are usually really racist. The people calling sexism, usually really sexist. It's just, it's always backwards, almost always backwards. And it's really disappointing to see. So, you know, you have to get to the point where you are cool with what you want and what you do, you know, just like with anything. You got to be cool with your body. You got to be cool with your clothes. You got to be cool with the way you smell. Again, whether you want to smell natural or you want to cover yourself in stuff, like you have to be cool with that. That's your thing. And you have to be cool with letting other people be their thing, you know? Again, like, I think there's a reason why we don't talk about intimate things in public, and it's because that's not an intimate space. It's a public space. And if you find people in that space that become intimate in this like little sphere you've created within that space, be intimate with them, but don't try to shame people into like forcing them to be intimate with you. That's fucked up. That's what I think. I don't know. A man uncomfortable with periods is just a man uncomfortable with periods. He's still a man. He's just not comfortable with periods. We really have to like get away from judging people like this. Like, there's no reason to like hate on people. You think about this. All of us at birth were instilled with this trauma to our genital region, usually, especially men, but often women too in many ways. And then it's just reinforced over and over again throughout our lives. And so our root chakra, our genital region, has been messed with intentionally. Our connection to our, you know, divine feminine, divine masculine, whatever you are, has been intentionally severed and kept that way with as many new cuts as possible as time goes on. And to look at somebody who's suffering from an aspect of that and to try and like shame them for it, call them out, make them feel like they're not doing it right or good enough or something is like, that's sad. It's sad. I mean, there was a time when I was uncomfortable with my period, right? Or any part of my body really in self. I think all of us were. That's what childhood is like. That's what adolescence is like. You know, and then I had to get to the point where I wasn't. And so if I look back at my past self and I'm like, oh, I was horrible, bad person or something like that, just adds to it. I think we just have to give each other some grace and let people do whatever it is they want to do. And again, like if you're uncomfortable with certain things, that's cool. If you're uncomfortable with painting with your period blood, there's nothing wrong with that. And if anyone tries to make you feel like there is, then again, don't let that person be in your life unless you want people in your life that shame you and make you feel bad. But yeah, learn to not be ashamed. Learn to empower yourself, to love yourself exactly for what you're doing right now and who you are right now, and be your badass, beautiful self, because that's nobody's business but yours. So do your thing. And until you can embody that and project it everywhere you go so that everyone around you knows that person's doing exactly what they want to do and that's none of my business, I'll let them be their happy ass self. Travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
Nasty motherfuckers with a hook and a sickle. Brought to you advertisement, bone plated nickel. Fire rate automatic smash from the get-go. Snack on the whack, fermented flesh disco. Abracadabra, archaic altars don't slabber. Hey, making jabbers with reality backwards. Hunting rap nerds, bodyguard collected actors. Munitions are famished, let them feast kicks, feasting on amygdala. Iron fist, tyrant shit, APO will rip you up. The rhyme rainmaker, vein style backbreaker. Genghis Khan depleted uranium satellite lasers. Cloaked in anonymity, I know you never heard of me. No rusted tools used for Crowley style surgery.
Dissect a whole set, God body. God taught me to dissect the whole body. When it gets sloppy, I'ma get there. Rhymes rare like steak, get crushed like crates to create 52 states. And it's Baghdad, dusted towels, no rags, straight milk dash. Dust to ash, turbans while the niggas perkin'. It's on purpose, my service touches the sun's surface, and rainbows touch serpents. My light all night shines so bright. I'm a star for eons, Hollywood's for peons, cause they try to copy the same shit we on. Hey, I ain't done yet, lungs depleted and can't breathe, can't believe it. Trying to seek it while trying to peep it, it's a secret. Now you're nobody, label somebody. Trying to claim John Gotti, it's yours truly, God body.